Good morning, y'all, and welcome back to Bald Father Bets. So we are going to give you our final thoughts on NFL Week 2. Before we do that, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel, notifications on. We do post late up until kickoff sometimes with our picks. And then just give the video some love, like, share, comment. Interaction with you guys is my favorite part. Let me know what your guys' thoughts were on the NFL Week 2 season. NFL season Week 2. A lot of divisional matchups this year early on. I mean, the Chargers are playing their first 3 games are divisional matchups, which is crazy because it defines so much of your season so early on before most teams have really figured out who they are, unless they're a very veteran-led team. Let me know your thoughts. But let's get into it. Let's start out with Thursday, Commanders and Packers. The Packers are a wagon. I have moved them into the top 3 of my power ratings for this year, especially after seeing what Detroit did. They are a wagon. That Commanders offense is very difficult to stop, especially with Kingsbury for the past 9 or 10 games or so. I mean, they've figured it out. And that Packers defense, what they did, you could see Daniels was confused. That's one of the first times he's been confused since very early on last year. They're a very good team, and when if they got Van Ness healthy, they got Rashawn Gary healthy, and they got Micah Parsons healthy, you're talking about a pass rush that is very formidable, right? And that's with a team that has the offense then that they do, where in theory they should be able to get out, play with a lead. Then you're trying to tee off on your opposing team with your pass rushers. It's the Indianapolis Colts Peyton Manning theory. The Colts built their team because they had Peyton Manning so they would get the lead on people. And then on the defense, they spent money on Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis because then they would go tee off on the other team because they had to throw to catch up. That Packers team is a wagon. Going into Sunday, our 1 p.m. games, I told you guys the Lions would be fine. I don't think we should overreact to that, though, because it was against the Bears. I think there was some coaching nuances there. Probably a message that wanted to be sent, as well as just a familiarity with what someone wants to do, right? And then you have the Lions coming off of a game where they didn't feel like they played their best. They're still a very good team, but I still expect some growing pains over the next few weeks for the Lions because, again, 2 coordinator changes. It's still early. They've only played 2 games together. Just because they had 1 bad game and 1 good game, not everything's fixed at this point. But the Lions they're going to be fine. I still think they're going to come in around that 9-8, 10-7, where nobody wants to see them make the playoffs because they'll be a very dangerous team late. Also in that early window, the 49ers and the Saints was the Saints probably should have covered that game, and they even really had a chance to win it. I do think Mac Jones played well. It's going to be very interesting to see how many weeks Purdy's out and how Mac Jones does statistically, because we've known for a while now that's Shanahan wanted Mac Jones, and he was overridden, and they ended up with Trey Lance. So it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to do, but I'm not really falling in love with that 49ers performance the way I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are looking at Mac Jones's box score, but when you watch that game, it wasn't all roses for the 49ers. Now, don't get me wrong, they had a lot of defense. I don't understand how, if the training staff in the 49ers is the same and they've kept their job for this long, they need to not have their job because it's a pretty wild case. I don't know of any team that's been injury-ridden more over the course of a long period of time. Obviously, like the Lions were more injury-ridden last year, but over the course of like 4 or 5 seasons now, man, the 49ers just have a difficult time putting it together. And a lot of it, yes, they play a very physical brand, but the Eagles play a very physical brand too, and they haven't dealt with the same type of injuries the way the 49ers have. Now, the Eagles are dealing with some injuries so far to start this year, so that does take a toll on you if you decide to play that style of football. But again, my big thing is I didn't necessarily fall in love with everything that they did. Patriots, Dolphins are dead. Like I said, I told you guys yesterday in the college football video, Thursday Night Football is Bills, Dolphins. Obviously, any model's telling you that that's too many. The line is juiced too much. to the Bills. But I just don't know if I could do it. I don't know. I mean, I probably will, but God, it takes some balls to take Miami right now. They are McDaniel in that press conference. I mean, it's just everything about that team is just sad. Just sad. That pick by Tua was DJ Lagway against Florida-esque. Not that bad. God. But it was not good. It was not good. They just look bad. They're getting into arguments with each other. Tyreek is becoming a problem. They probably need to trade him. I'm sure the Chiefs will somehow pick him up and get him back, given that they have needs at wide receiver. But it's rough. Things are rough in Miami. Steelers, Seahawks. That score is a little bit probably more off than it should be because the returner letting the ball go over his head, thinking that, well, now it's just a touchback, and forgetting that it's a live ball, that he has to go down it in the end zone if it lands in the landing zone. So Seahawks win by 2 touchdowns, but they really got a gift on that one. And that kind of changed the complexity of the game too, because that put them up by 2 scores, which then changed how the Steelers had to run their offense late in that second half. But you look at how the Bills and the Jets played. Jets were one of the sharpest sides. I mean, we liked it too. Models told you that was too many points, Bills, Jets, and Bills below the Jets out of the water. And now you're looking at then this performance with the Steelers and the Seahawks, and you're like, well, wait a second, are the Steelers actually that good from that 4 touchdown performance that Rodgers had in the first game? So jury's absolutely still out on that. I have no doubt that the Steelers will somehow end the season 9-8 or 8-9 and be fighting for a playoff spot in that very last week, because that's what the Steelers do. Cowboys, Giants, what a game. Giants have a defensive line. We've known that when they're healthy they have a defensive line, but they definitely have a defensive line. Russell Wilson, fantastic other than that pick that he threw. Brandon Aubrey, automatic. But what a game. I think we're concerned about Cowboys defensively. And I think Russell Wilson quieted some doubters that, hey, that's his starting job for a little while moving forward. I don't think Jackson Dart's coming in and taking that from him if he's having performances like that. I do not like the running him out and running Dart on for option read plays when you know that that's what's coming. I don't like it. What else was of note in that 1 p.m. window? Not a whole lot that I remember that really stuck out. Bengals, Jags. Man, that's a tough loss for the Jags. You can't have a 7-point lead, go down, have Joe Burrow go down, and then get beat by the backup quarterback. Also having them on 4th down on their side of the field with a chance to seal it, letting them get that, similar to the Texans giving up that 4th down to the Bucs 2 nights ago. You can't let that happen. Now Brian Thomas Jr. had some horrendous drops in that game. I still like the Jags. You can see what they're doing on offense. Cohen seems positive. This is a very difficult spot for the Bengals now, without Burrow. And it was Sunday Night Football, but we'll talk about it a little bit. Vikings without McCarthy. And the Vikings haven't looked good. They put together 1 quarter of good football out of 8. They've not looked good. And now you have McCarthy holding the clipboard over on the side, not really learning or getting better. That's a tough one. That's very tough. But I think the Bengals and the Vikings play each other. I think it's 2 backup. I think they play each other this week. Bengals play someone who has a backup quarterback in. I think it's the Vikings. Might be somebody else. But it's a backup quarterback game. I remember that for sure. Browning looked good. Browning looked good when he came in for relief of Burrow last year. Browning has looked good in that offense, and he now has some time with that offense, so he understands it. There may be opportunity for us from there in terms of a value standpoint in betting on them. Not much else, I think, of note. Most teams move to 1-1 after 2 weeks. That's always how the NFL is. And then you have obviously your teams that are 2-0 and 0-2. we'll talk about the Eagles Chiefs, and then I want to talk about the 0-2 thing. So Eagles Chiefs. Chiefs should have won, obviously. You can't have Travis Kelce dropping touchdown passes that turn into interceptions that would have been a pick six if not for one of the best rundowns by an offensive lineman that I've ever seen. Simmons, wow, you dog. That was incredible. Ultimately, it wasn't. It would have been better if they had scored on the pick six, because the Eagles ultimately scored a touchdown on that possession and just was able to burn more clock with it. So Eagles at 2-0. I still don't like the Eagles necessarily all that much, even to win their division. I still kind of like the Commanders to win that division this year. The Chiefs at 0-2. So this is very interesting. The Chiefs, look at the Chiefs' odds to win the Super Bowl at 0-2 versus everyone else at 0-2. The Chiefs are 7-1 to win the Super Bowl at 0-2. The Colts are 2-0 and they're over 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. That's how much respect the book has for the Chiefs. What I think you can get on the Chiefs at this point, in my opinion, is a good price on them to win the AFC. If you like that, you can get a good price to win the division, but you need to be careful because, like I said, the Chargers have already played 2 division games and they're 2-0. Now the Chiefs are 0-2; they're only 0-1 in the division, and they're going to get another shot at the Chargers. But the Chargers they're 2-0 in the division, and they have the game against the Broncos this weekend with an opportunity to move 3-0. So you need to be careful on that one. I told you guys though the Broncos wasn't going to win that division. The Chiefs have a phenomenal defense once again, one of the best in the country, or in the NFL. I don't know why people don't say the country for NFL. They only say that for college. It's weird. But yeah, one of the best in the NFL. Mahomes will get Rashee Rice, and he will get Xavier Worthy back, and I think things will be different. And like I said, I wouldn't be all that surprised if they get Tyreek Hill before trade deadline with the way things are going in Miami. It would just make sense. It would be an easy one for him to go do, and the Chiefs would give up whatever 6th, 7th round, 5th round pick to get him. And somehow Miami would pay his salary, and then the Chiefs would be loaded to get back in the end of the year. Mahomes still has his fastball. You can see it. I mean, he's doing everything he can out there to get them through. The Chiefs are going to be fine. The question is, where's the value on them right now in terms of a future standpoint? Colts, love the Colts. We're a little too high on them. You guys know I've liked Danny Dimes in that offense. The whole, they haven't punted yet. It isn't technically true. They punted and they had a roughing the punter, so it didn't count. 2-0, all that stuff. Now, I told you guys preseason I thought the Colts were live. I told you guys preseason I did not like the Texans in that division because of what they lost the offensive line. And if you watched the game last night, 2 nights ago, the Bucs having both their offensive tackles out. They didn't start the game with Wirfs, which was one of the reasons why we're on the Texans, and they lost their other offensive tackle within the first quarter of the game. So the Texans have Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. on the other side. They should win that game going away, but their offense was completely stagnant because the offensive line didn't really give Stroud enough time. Stroud missed too, and they had no resemblance of a running game. The Texans are in a very tough spot now at 0-2. So Colts at 2-0 to win that division. I still kind of like the Jags. Now, we'll see what happens. But I think we're having a little too much of a love affair with the Colts right now. Cardinals, Panthers, that was a good display of what the Panthers can be there late in that game. Getting that onside kick was awesome. Unfortunate they weren't able to get a score there. You'd like to see that for Bryce Young and for Canales, but ultimately it was a good showing by what they can be. They kind of, I think, righted a few of the wrongs from the first 2 weeks. Cardinals 2-0 to start the year. We'll see. Cardinals kind of do this, so we'll see. They've beaten the Saints, they've beaten the Panthers. Let's see them play the Seahawks and the Rams and the 49ers and get later in that division. We already talked about Sunday Night Football. Major concern for the Vikings right now. Major concern. JJ doesn't look great. and then now he's hurt. So they've invested the pick in him. He's going to get the starting job when he comes back, but they don't have Darnold or anything there. We have concerns. And then last, the Monday night games last night, Chargers are a wagon. They're up there with the Packers. They've probably been the most impressive team to start off. I wouldn't power rate them as high as I have the Packers right now, but they've been one of the most impressive teams. Losing Khalil Mack is a big deal. That's their difference maker at pass rush, especially after losing Bosa in the offseason. And then Buccaneers, Texans. We talked about the Texans, but from the Buccaneers standpoint, man, Baker Mayfield he's a top 10 QB in the league, and he has a clutch gene that is different than a lot of other people. I think I have been on the losing end of a Baker Mayfield game-winning drive. They talked about how he's had the second most or something since 2018. I swear I've been on the losing end of every single one. It's like almost a guarantee at this point. We were on the losing end week 1 against the Falcons. So it's what he does. And then the toughness, we'll see with the knee. I'd imagine he got an injection in that knee at some point in that game, so it's going to be very tender and sore this week. We'll see. I'm sure he'll play. He almost always plays. But what's his mobility going to be like? Because Baker does have good escapability from the pocket, and then you saw in the 4th and 8 with the scramble. I mean, that was the big difference in that drive. So that's it. Those are our thoughts. In terms of futures value, pump the brakes on the Colts. Look for what you can get on the Chiefs. Pump the brakes on everybody loving the Lions again. And the Packers are a wagon. I think they have a very good shot at the number 1 seed in the NFC. I do. If San Francisco can get healthy, they do too, because they have an easy schedule. But I think the Packers have a very good shot at that overall number 1 seed. They've had it before, though, and it hasn't mattered, so they need to do something with it, but we'll see. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Again, show the video some love, like, share, comment. Love the interaction. Let me know what your thoughts were on the second week of the NFL. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll get at you tomorrow for Thursday Night Football.